Alright, boys and girls, so the first thing I want to say to you is, if you want to get into the waste industry and you want to get one of these trucks here that's on the screen, give me a message, because I always forget to do an advert for the business that I work for. So yeah, give us a shout if you want to get into the waste industry, and we will look you up and get you making some a few quid doing the skip job. There's always room for, you know, another good company. But what I wanted to talk to you today about is, let me just forward this so we are talking about the same thing. I'm going to actually be watching this live with you. And so what it is, your yard, I presume, looks like this, as you know, as you'll see on the screen. All the yards around the country are looking like pretty full of wood at the minute. And what's happened is these different incinerators, so these they're all over the country anyway. I'm not going to name a particular one, but they're all over the country. And what's happened is 2 or 3 of them have gone down at the same time. What happens is, in the waste industry, is depending on how the seasons are. This is what I've found over years and years. The power stations will probably disagree and say, no, that's not it. But what I've found is, if you get a crappy summer, so the summer's not very warm, you know, it's you know, where people will be using more electric, if you like, a lot of the incinerators don't seem to close down. And then if you get a real warm summer like this, like we're having now, like in COVID and stuff like that, a lot of them do maintenance when it's red hot, because there's not as much demand for electric. I think that's what I've found over years and years and years. So what I've done is I've compiled a video, and what it's going to be is showing you how an incinerator works. It's only basic. It's not, you know, we're not going to go massively into it, but I do know why these incinerators must be worked on, and I also know how to fix them. So the first video we're going to see here is a biomass plant. You've probably seen these, you know, a million times. There's nothing unusual about this. I think this one's in Dusseldorf or somewhere around. Obviously, I have to get the footage off the internet for people to actually watch. But I'm going to explain to you what the process is and why that these plants do need maintenance. This is just a typical site. This is the beginning of the process. So people will go, I think this is actually a Stobart site. People will go in, you know, council or whatever, tip a load of wood like that, as you can see there. And then the site will then process the material. So one problem you get with wood is, which is a short-term problem, is that thing you can see in the background, which is the shredder. So, you know, these people are shredding wood and stuff like that. Shredder breaks down, and then you might get a breakdown, and that's at the site level. So, you know, wherever you tip it, as you can see this machine here, and this will lead me on to nicely one of the big problems. So you'll see this machine here, it's obviously got a magnet on it, it's pulling all the metal out, but it does not pull the aluminium out. And if you do get a breakdown on a, you know, on a disposal site, you know, they might be down 2, 3, 4 days or whatever. This, what we've got going on now, is months and months and months of downtime from the actual incinerator. So the yards, you know, they've got all the material, all the wood ready to go into the incinerators, but the actual incinerator can't take the material. This is a star screen which takes all the dusty stuff out of wood. I was actually talking to somebody yesterday about this, who has a biomass plant, about getting the dust out. But that's what this machine does in essence. Gets the big pieces out, and then they just put that back through the process. And this is the problem with a lot of these plants, and it is aluminium. So they don't take it out with an eddy current, and watch what happens. So, you know, it does act very, it's very volatile. And when it gets wet and goes onto a surface, this is what you end up with. And in these big biomass plants, what happens is this material melts down and sticks together, and it sticks to the inside lining of the wall. So if you think about it, you're burning wood all day, but little bits of aluminium are dropping around like that, and you end up with a big chunk of aluminium like this stuck on the floor of the incinerator. That's one thing which is the problem. The other thing is, a lot of incinerators just use a conveyor belt like this to move the material into the incinerator. This is one, that's a conveyor. And when it gets into the incinerator, you use one of these, which is a chain drive. So you can't have rubber going into an incinerator, so they use this, which is a chain drive. I've actually got another video of this in a minute for you to have a look at. And what happens with a chain drive is the chain runs along a surface like that. It's always scraping a bed like that. What happens is you get holes in it and different things like that. you know, and then this again is a screw conveyor, and that also will wear holes into, you know, into the actual lining as it winds up. So all this stuff, they can run with it, you know, they might have an hole in it, whatever. Some guys there with a shovel all day getting it, you know, to keep the incinerator running. But at some point, it must be, you know, it must be fixed. And going on to the next part of this video, so this is an eddy current which gets out all the little bits from shredded wood, and this here is actually cleaning up the bottom ash out of a biomass plant. So I was lucky to get this video, but this is all the stuff that goes into a biomass plant. It's already been through the burner, and this is how much comes out of the ash. So everything jumping across like that onto the whiteboard, that is all the aluminium. So it's actually quite scary how much there is, you know, nails, screws, different things like that, you know, where they've used aluminium for something. And this aluminium all the time is building up, and then they end up getting problems where what it does is it sits on the lining of the incinerator. So this is a chain conveyor, and as you can see there, this one is open in the middle, but a lot of them are actually covered, so that's where the wear comes. As this chain's going up all the time, pulling up wood chip, it wears away and it must be replaced. Some of them have wear plates on them like this one. Some of them have got a fully enclosed base, and it pulls the chip up and drops it in. But that just gives you an idea of, you know, what sort of maintenance we're doing. So first of all, we've got the aluminium, which is sticking to the inside of the incinerator. It's sticking all over, you know, to the walls, and it's building up. And this is a chain conveyor that gets worn away, and it must be basically repaired. And going on to the problem with the aluminium. So what happens is, if you look at this animation, this is the floor of an incinerator. So this is what you would use for biomass. What happens is with these biomass plants is a lot of the air comes from underneath. So you'd think, you know, a big burner, you know, it's firing something into the burner. It don't work that way. They start the fire at the top, and as the material works its way down like that, the actual air is forced in from underneath, and that's what keeps the floor cool. So the floor of an incinerator is always running nice and cool, and then that just walks it down, very similar to a walking floor, you know, and you can see there by the animation exactly how it works. And there's big fans underneath, and the big fans are pushing air all the time from underneath, forcing the flame upwards. So that's how that works. And the problem comes with these bits of aluminium is that they jam the floor. So they melt onto the floor, and, you know, they're basically gluing those panels together. It is just a case of getting an hammer and a bolster and just knocking them off. I've actually done this on an incinerator which my mate's got, and, you know, you literally just knock off the aluminium that gets stuck to it. But that gives you a good idea, you know, of how that works. And this type of floor is used for exactly what you see here. It can use for coal, briquettes, sawdust, stuff like that. This type of floor is not used for general waste. General waste usually comes in at the top and falls down under its own steam. It burns a lot hotter than biomass. But anyway, going on to the next part of this is another type of chain conveyor. Like I say, you know, I'm just giving you ideas of where the maintenance comes from. But this would be in the bottom of a silo, pulling wood chip up into, you know, a biomass boiler like that. As you can see there, it can go uphill, downhill, whatever you're doing with it. As I said a minute ago, this is how a general waste one works. It's lifted up and it's dropped in from the top. And these ones, you know, some of them have a walking floor, some of them literally just fall down, and as it's falling down, it's burning as it goes up. It's a lot more simple technology because they're always firing fuel into it. You know, not a lot, but a little bit. And as you can see, the temperatures that these incinerators are running at, this is a biomass boiler, and you can see, you know, this is where the problem with the aluminium comes. And a lot of the problems with these incinerators is literally all from bits of aluminium getting stuck in the floor, stuck in the conveyors, stuck in the pipes, and, you know, it leads on to a lot more maintenance. And what is that maintenance, you might ask yourself? So the maintenance that they do on incinerator is this. So this, when the aluminium gets stuck to the inside, they have to knock it off. Little bits of melted aluminium will be stuck all over that inside there that you can see. And what they're doing all the time is they're knocking it off with an hammer or whatever they're doing. And then it takes away the old concrete, and they've got to re-line the inside of a incinerator quite regularly. I think, you only get a year or two, and some of these, relining jobs can be 1, 2, 3 million quid. Probably more for a big incinerator. I'm not sure of the actual price, but I know refractory concrete, which is obviously concrete which is able to withstand 600-700 degree temperatures. Sorry, no, it's not 600, 1600. Some of them are £1,000 per ton, so you can imagine how much these will actually use. This video is actually taken in the UK, so I'm going to leave this one on and let you watch this, because it gives you a really good idea. You can see the little metal prongs stuck in the wall. They spray the concrete around it, and the little prongs hold it all together. And this is a UK incinerator in the Midlands. Right, so as you will see there, then the main maintenance that we get with these, these incinerators is build-up of aluminium, repairing the refractory lining, which is repairing the concrete on the inside, which is usually caused by bits of aluminium getting stuck to it and things like that. Not just aluminium, you can get a bit of steel as well, but obviously a lot of the shredders, they pull a lot of steel out. But aluminium is a real problem. It really does turn into, liquid and just get stuck everywhere. And then the other thing, where we get a lot of maintenance is on the conveyors. And what they would do with a conveyor, they wouldn't just change, a wear plate. They change everything, the chain, everything. Not only that, they are also fed by a rubber conveyor that feeds onto the chain conveyor. The chain conveyor takes it to the last part, because obviously it can't set on fire because it's all metal. Anyway, that might give you a bit of idea. I mean, I'm no expert on it, but I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea, and that's from, a few years of messing about with biomass boilers when my mate's got one not too far from here, and he's, we've been down there quite a few times and helped him out to repair it. Anyway, I'll see you soon. I hope you have a good weekend, and, let's hope this wood situation gets better, but unfortunately, I think we're about 6 months away from, from anything getting any better. See you soon. Bye.